Hey guys, one of the things that drives me nuts when I get into IIFYM or flexible dieting debates is the war cry of the clean eaters. Because I think most of us, we've seen the shredded physiques online, people that do IIFYM. There's a lot of data out there to show there's no difference in fat loss if you control for macros and control for calories and protein, But the warrior cry of the clean eaters is, but what about overall health? So, I have Dr. Spencer Nadolski with me, and Dr. Nadolski is going to look over some of my blood work and let me know if I am in fact, by any measurable standard, unhealthy on a physiological level. So, let me give you guys an idea of what I eat on a per day basis. First of all, my macros right now are around 230 grams of protein a day, 400 grams of carbohydrate intake, and around 120 grams of fat.
How much fiber?
Fiber is usually around 40 to 50 grams a day.
That's pretty high.
But my breakfast is usually like I have, egg whites, but with bacon, fat-free cheese. And then before my pre-workout meal, during lunch, I'll have something like a Greek yogurt with air pop popcorn and some Skittles, like a bag of Skittles for quick carbs. And then post-workout, I'll have whatever we're having for dinner, which is usually like some kind of starch, vegetables, and a meat source. I'll have some ice cream after that, because I like my ice cream. And then before bed, I'll usually have some Icon Meals popcorn, which you tried last night.
Yeah, it's good.
Really good. It's a little bit higher in sugar.
Yep.
It's about 60 grams of sugar per bag, and I'll usually have about
4 bags.
about half a bag to a bag a day.
Okay.
So my sugar intake is probably up around 100 grams a day.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
But so the question is does that matter? I've told people based on the scientific evidence that, if you control for calories, you control for protein, and you get enough fiber in, that's a big deal. If you get enough fiber in, I don't think sugar has a negative effect. But we have my blood work here, and we will post it up there so you can see that I didn't make this up, and you guys can see what's actually going on with me and if there's any changes I need to make.
Yep. So we did some standard labs that you'd get, for a normal screening physical, but I also got a few more advanced labs just to look a little bit further. So the first thing that pops up is your cholesterol. Mm-hmm. So your total cholesterol is 218, which normal is 200. So but the thing is, you can't look at that in isolation. We have to start breaking down the different lipoproteins. So for you, the HDL, which is what everybody calls the good cholesterol, that means that's the cholesterol or the cholesterol containing particles that are not going to cause plaque or heart disease or atherosclerosis. That's the good stuff. Yours was 66, which is extremely good. It's nice and high.
Really high.
A lot of times when we see with people eating a lot of sugar, we think of insulin resistance, and that number would be low. So a 66 with that high of sugars is very good. The other thing we looked at are the triglycerides. So the triglycerides are the fats that circulate your blood. And that usually elevates with insulin resistance. So people that eat a lot of sugar have a bigger abdomen, belly. That's usually high. Yours was actually 60, which is very low and very good, which I would personally expect. But, people thinking a lot of sugar can cause de novo lipogenesis and causing that to increase. Yours was 60, which is what I see with a lot of my patients who eat low carb and low sugar. So that's very good.
Yeah.
Now, we did check your LDL, which is called the bad cholesterol, and also your non-HDL. Anything that's not HDL can kind of get in your arteries and start causing plaque. So your LDL was 140. Now, some doctors may look at that and go, hey, that's a little bit elevated, but we talked about this. You have a very low risk in everything else, and we'll talk about some of the other markers that make you a little bit low risk, but no family history of heart attacks or anything like that. And you don't smoke, your blood pressure's good. So a 140 in isolation may seem a little bit elevated, still not a place to just give somebody a cholesterol medicine.
Two markers that at least when I was in graduate school, they emphasized cholesterol to HDL ratio, which seems to be really good, pretty low, and so that's the ratio of your total cholesterol divided by your HDL. So if you have a higher proportion of HDL, your good cholesterol, that number is going to be lower.
So yeah, so I actually look at the non-HDL, and your non-HDL was 152.
So that's your favorite marker.
That's it's even better than LDL cholesterol, and
really?
they're finding that actually correlates a little bit better with heart disease and other atherosclerotic events. Now we could get if we wanted to, we could get a little bit more advanced and actually check the particles that carry the cholesterol, the actual lipoproteins. But the non-HDL does such a good job as a surrogate marker. I think maybe another time we'll check those, like the ApoB and things like that, and the LDL particles. But your non-HDL was 152, which is extraordinary, especially with your LDL being a little bit elevated, but then your non-HDL is actually lower. That's good. Yeah. That means you're clearly insulin sensitive.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing we did check, so sometimes we actually risk stratify. After somebody gets their lipid panel, their cholesterol panel, we check someone's inflammation. Mm-hmm. And to do this, we get...
This is what everybody tells me, she's going to be elevated because of my sugar intake.
Yeah, because of your sugar. And that's reasonable to think that, because we think of people that eat a lot of sugar have insulin resistance, they have bigger bellies and everything like that, metabolic syndrome. So this is called a high sensitivity C-reactive protein, HSCRP. Yours was 0.2, which is extremely low. You basically can't get any lower unless it's 0.1. And this is a sensitive test. Usually if like my metabolic syndrome patients, they'll have it anywhere from 1 to 3 or even above 3. I mean, your inflammation, I mean, this is as low as I've ever seen. So it's extremely good. No inflammation.
Yeah, awesome.
We also checked your homocysteine, another inflammatory marker, nice and low at 7.6. Nothing bad. Now, here's where we get into your sugars.
Right.
So your glucose was 96, and as a snapshot, we may think, oh, let's start getting at the higher end of normal. But it's hard to take that in isolation. Since that's such a snapshot, in that one morning, you could have a stressful night. Your cortisol could be up a little bit. You're just not sleeping well one night can raise that, or it's something that you eat.
Yeah, I only got like 5 hours sleep last night.
Yeah,
less than usual.
So that's very possible. Now, to make up for this, though, we put this in conjunction with what's called the hemoglobin A1C, which basically looks at the 3-month average. It looks at your red blood cells.
Right, because those take 3 months to turn over.
Yeah, and so they attach the sugar actually attaches to the blood cells, and we can measure the percentage and everything like that and tell an average.
So it's not subject to big variability like a daily measurement.
Right. No. So this shows a nice 3-month average,
and that's really low, right?
And yours was 5.0, which is extraordinary. Up to 5.7 to 6.4 is pre-diabetes or borderline diabetes, and then above 6.5 and above is diabetic. So you being 5 is there's absolutely no signs of insulin resistance. No signs of any sugar regulation issues, glucose intolerance. Despite your higher sugar intake, this is very good.
And what I tell people is people don't realize when a lot of the reasons, in my opinion, and I'd like to hear yours, that sugar correlates with insulin resistance and diabetes and whatnot, is because if somebody has a Coke or something sugary, they're not replacing something on their diet with that. They're adding that to the top of their diet.
Yeah.
Like they're over consuming calories. Right.
Exactly. They're very easy to overeat.
Yeah, it's not very filling. Mm-hmm. Right. So, but for somebody who lift weights, is controlling their calories, it's a very steady level, and is training hard, this doesn't seem to make a difference.
Right.
Especially with the fiber intake as well.
The thing is, it's not like you're just eating a bunch of Pop-Tarts and then drinking a fiber supplement. You have an overall quality diet, but then you have some of these extra things that you enjoy and that fit your lifestyle.
Well, I always tell people diet's like a budget, right? So, my macros are pretty high right now. Now I'm gaining a little bit of weight, like I'm in a muscle gain phase. I'm gaining a little bit of weight, but again, people. They don't look at it and say, if you gain weight, it makes you insulin sensitive. That's not necessarily the case.
No.
Especially if you're training hard.
If you're training hard and you're not gaining a ton of weight all at once, you're doing it slowly.
Yeah, this has been, I would say, 8 pounds in 3 months. Right?
Yeah.
So like about a half pound a week.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And when if you look at it like a budget, where I'm able to eat 400 grams of carbohydrate a day. 120 grams of fat, right? Like there's a lot of flexibility in that budget, right? Like you're like a millionaire, right? If I'm a millionaire and I want to go out and buy a new car for $50,000, I can do that, right? But if I make $30,000 a year, probably shouldn't go buy a new car for $50,000. You know
I have some patients that make about they're in poverty. They're making like 15K.
Right, exactly. But they're trying to eat like they make 100K.
They're trying to eat like they're Monopoly man.
Right, exactly. So it's always important to I tell people in terms of insulin sensitivity. Typically, people say, "Oh, I'm carb sensitive. I'm this, I'm that."
Right.
Who are weight trainers? I say, you're probably just a slower metabolic rate. Like it's not that carbs are making you fat. You're just eating too many overall calories, and carbs are part of that, right?
And you have no dietary awareness. That's probably what's going on.
Right. So if you want to check if you actually have some kind of insulin resistance or true carb intolerance. First off, I would say get fasting blood work done.
Yep,
right?
exactly. You can start off with a A1C, a glucose. You could even add in an insulin level if you want, and then also looking at the triglycerides and HDL. If your triglycerides are a little bit up and your HDL is a little bit low, that's a sign of insulin resistance. Yeah. Also, waist circumference too.
Yep. And so again, looking as an overall patient, not just one marker. And but if you really want to know. An oral glucose tolerance test where they're measuring glucose and insulin. So they're actually looking at how your glucose and insulin respond over a time course to basically a challenge of sugar.
Yep.
Right? And if that is, I think it's supposed to be cleared within 3 hours, something like that. And if you're not clearing that within 3 hours and it's not with a normal insulin level, then you can conclusively say that that's insulin resistance.
And that's extremely advanced. You probably don't need to do that, but if you really wanted to get into it, and maybe we'll do that someday, that's how you do it. I mean, you could even do a euglycemic clamp. Did you ever do those?
Yeah, sure.
In the research lab, but wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah. For most people, you're never going to need that. But my point is that you can follow a flexible diet. You can follow IIFYM with the caveat that you need to get enough fiber. And the thing is, if you're eating enough fiber, you're going to get a lot of micronutrient dense stuff anyway.
Again, not from fiber supplement. I mean, if you're eating fiber from mostly your foods, you're going to get all those micronutrients, and it's probably going to be high quality. I mean, unless you're getting them from protein bars or something. That's most of the fiber.
So the moral of the story is it also doesn't seem like that sugar is causing any problems with inflammation. So I try to tell you guys, here's some more evidence. Don't worry about IIFYM causing you to become insulin resistant if you're controlling calories, getting enough protein, and getting enough fiber. Spencer, where can people find out more about you? And you're offering a service now.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about you, like what got you into this.
So I actually wrestled in college. I was a heavyweight, really into performance, exercise, nutrition, science, and then wanted to use that information for the general population to prevent and cure chronic disease. So I went to medical school, specialized in family and obesity medicine. Realized the current medical system's not that great. I wanted to spend time with patients and actually give lifestyle prescription and help my patients lift. So I joined this group, SteadyMD, and now we can have, wherever you live, you can text me and Skype with me at any time. And no more waiting rooms, flat $80 fee per month. Always have contact with the doctor.
Text with you all the time.
Yep, text with me all the time. Yeah. So you want some labs? Can I get some labs done? Yeah, and I can order labs.
And for me, I'm so busy. Like I would definitely pay the $80 a month for that, just the fact that I don't have to sit in a waiting room for 2 hours.
Yeah, it's really fun. If a lot of traveling, things like that. I don't have time to see my own doctor, so it's really cool. I can refer to specialists if needed. I can do diagnosing. I can prescribe. It's a pretty cool thing. You can go to steadymd.com/lifting, and you'll either get me or another one of my fellow docs who actually lift. And it's a joke, but it's not really a joke. I think it's important to have a doctor.
No, I mean, I think a lot of people out there have had the experience to go to the doctor, stop taking protein powder, stop taking creatine, stop.
Yeah, I had a doctor tell me, hey, you should stop taking creatine, right? I was like, why? Please tell me why. He's like, it's not good for your kidneys. I'm like, these studies show me them. What are you talking about? Yeah. So I think it's important to have a doc who, if you're into fitness, having a doc who understands fitness and is into your lifestyle.
Awesome. Well, guys, definitely check out his service. I'll put a link in the description below. You can click on that and check out Dr. Spencer Nadolski and SteadyMD. All right, guys. So one marker that you may have noticed that we missed in the video of me and Dr. Nadolski was my testosterone. Obviously, based on the fact that I get accused of doing drugs pretty much consistently, I was kind of hesitant to post these because no matter what I would post, I think people would find a reason to say that it would prove that I was on drugs. But actually, Dr. Nadolski, when we were talking off camera, one of the things he said was, looking at my blood lipids, he would be very convinced that I wasn't on steroids, because most steroids really reduce your level of HDL, raise your triacylglycerides, and kind of throw your blood lipids and cholesterol out of whack. And I had really good HDL and very low triglycerides. That's whatever evidence that you guys want to see. And what I will say is I have passed many, many drug tests, including random drug tests out of competition. But I also realize that people will believe whatever they're going to believe. So I debated about sharing this or not, but I feel that being honest is very important. So I'll share them with you guys. So I have always had pretty high testosterone. Anytime I've had it tested, it's always been on the higher end of the spectrum. The normal range for testosterone is 250 to 1100 nanograms per milliliter. And I actually tested slightly out of the normal range. So I'm 1168. And then with free testosterone, it's 35 to 155 picograms per milliliter. And once again, I'm out of the normal range slightly. I'm 186.9. There's a few different ways to look at this. I'm sure some of you will look at this and say, well, that's it. That proves Layne's on drugs, and there's nothing I can do to convince you otherwise. There's also people who will look at this and say, well, that explains why Layne has built such an impressive physique, drug-free, because he just has high natural testosterone. And then there will be people who will say, wow, Layne's really done a shitty job considering how high his testosterone is. So I think the point to make is that there's a lot of things that go into building a great physique other than just testosterone levels. Now, am I going to sit here and say that this is a disadvantage? Absolutely not. It would definitely be kind of an advantage compared to anything else. You could also argue that I have been optimizing my nutrition and training for well over a decade. Okay, so I'm always looking into the latest research. I'm always, thinking about what I can do with my nutrition, what I can do with my training to produce better outcomes. And so perhaps that's also one way to look at it. Now, I'm not saying my nutrition and training is so perfect that if you're low testosterone, you can take it, you'll have great testosterone. That's not what I'm claiming at all. But I do think being so consistent on my nutrition, with my macronutrient intake, getting enough fiber, getting enough fat, the right proportions, makes a difference. But, however, are there people with more impressive physiques than me that have lower testosterone? Absolutely. Absolutely. Drug-free? Absolutely. Are there people who are stronger than me at the same weight who have lower testosterone? Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that just goes to show you that testosterone levels are important, but they're only so important, okay? Especially for bodybuilding, where things like just your overall aesthetic and how you look, your waist size, your bone size, your structure, your symmetry, your aesthetics. Some of those things are genetic components that you can't help. There's also many other myogenic factors to consider. What's your satellite cell number? What's your overall growth potential? How many muscle fibers do you have? What's the pennation? Even the structure of the muscle, where your tendons insert, So all these things to consider. Is having a little bit, very much on the high end of the testosterone range, a negative thing? Absolutely not. I'll take it. Don't worry, I will take it, absolutely. But I also would caution you from saying, oh, wow, Layne's just got this huge advantage. Is it an advantage? Absolutely. At the end of the day, you can't control what your genetics are. I'll take this. I'm sure it's part genetic, part environmental, and part nutrition and training related. You got to work with the advantages you have, and you got to work with the disadvantages you have. We've seen the way I squat. I have to bend over quite a bit to squat to parallel. It's just my structure. Now, I've done a lot of different things to try and stay more upright, but at the end of the day, I'm always going to have that forward lean to a certain extent. And so I can sit here and whine and complain about it, or I can just deal with that fact and try to get as much out of what I was given as I can. And that's what I do. So I think one other point to make is whatever company that's all these fearmongers on Facebook saying, well, IIFYM might work to get shredded, but you can't build muscle, or it's not optimal for hormones, or you've got to consider cellular responses. I would like to just give you guys a nice big fuck you. I told you you were full of crap, and hopefully blood work now helps you understand. Okay? It's more about your overall macronutrient intake. It's more about being consistent. It's more about training hard. All these things make a difference. When you control your protein, carb, fat intake, and your fiber, and you control your calories, there's no reason you can't be healthy, even eating some junk food. Okay? So I realize that there are those out there who will even say, well, blood work doesn't cover everything. And even those inflammatory markers are almost below the detectable range. I don't believe it. There must be something on the cellular DNA level going on. Well, you know what? There might also be a teacup orbiting Saturn, and I can't disprove that theory. But I'm pretty sure there's not a teacup orbiting Saturn. So I'm pretty convinced, and Dr. Nadolsky, based on my blood work, his actual words were, you look to be the picture of health and in stellar health. I mean, my resting heart rate is in the 40s. My blood pressure is like 115/67. So by any objective definition we have of healthy, I am. So hopefully this gives you guys insight into the fact that IIFYM and flexible dieting can be good for weight loss, can be good for muscle gain, and also aren't going to send you to an early grave. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. And I've enjoyed making it. I've learned a lot. And I'll catch you guys next time.